the three layers, the crust, the mantle, and the core. And if you look at the picture on the left-hand side, you can see the different shading. The very outer edge, the crust, is sort of white in color. If you go in a little bit, the mantle is marbled. And then inside you have the circular core. So that's the interior of the core, the interior of the moon, but what is the moon's surface made of? Let's think about that for a second. Does anyone want to read this slide about the moon's surface? Victoria, go right ahead.
The moon's atmosphere, well, the moon's surface. Sorry about that. Number 1, no atmosphere. Number 2, no liquid water. Number 3, extreme temperatures. Daytime is 130 degrees Celsius, but 265 degrees Fahrenheit. Nighttime is 190 Celsius, and for Fahrenheit it is 310. And number 4, it is that the moon is 1/6 of the Earth's gravity.
Very good. There's no atmosphere on the moon, so there's no clouds, there's no weather to speak of. There's no liquid water on the moon. There's very extreme temperatures. Their highs are hotter than our highs, and their lows are colder than our lows. And the gravity on Earth is the gravity on the moon is 1/6 of the gravity on the Earth. Now, if you've ever heard, and we're going to watch it at some point today, when the astronauts first landed on the moon, they have a famous quote. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. It's kind of two-way play on words. Getting to the moon was a great accomplishment for mankind. However, when the astronauts took a step on the moon, instead of it being like a normal step like you would take here, the resistance is 1/6 of what it is here. So a little step turned out to be a huge, gigantic leap because there is such low amounts of gravity. Alexandria, did you have a question? Not always, because they do get light. It doesn't reflect the same as it reflects in the Earth, but we are going to talk about that in a second. Now, the moon has lots of different features. They can have mountains that can be up to 7,500 meters or 25,000 feet tall. They can have something called riles, which are trench-like valleys. And if you look at this picture, you can see a mountain, which is the white stripe going through the center of the picture from right to left, left to right. And at the bottom, you can see it looks kind of like cutouts. It kind of reminds me of if you were in an airplane looking down at the Earth, where you can see how the roads cut through big areas of trees. That's what the riles look like. There can be craters on the moon. Craters can be up to 1,533 miles across. Most are formed by meteorite impacts on the moon, but some are formed by volcanic action in the moon, and it goes from the inside out. What we're going to take a look at right now is how a crater on the moon is formed. So, I asked you if you wanted to participate in the activity to have some flour or some sort of white substance, some cocoa powder or a dark substance, and a pan. So I'm going to tilt my camera so that you can see my container. And here you have my container. I am going to make a crater on the moon. Okay, except I don't have a moon, so I'm going to make it in my dish. I have my two different size balls that I had before, and when I drop them, it makes a hole. If I drop it in just the flour, oops, that hit the side, the dust flies all over. If I drop it in where my cocoa powder is, it still makes a hole, but the dust does not fly as much. This is supposed to stimulate the surface of the moon. Does anybody have the materials, or would they like to show us what happens when they drop their marbles into the container? If you do, I can turn your camera on. Would anyone like to try? All right, perfectly fine. Now, there are certain features on our moon that are well known. One of them is a feature called Maria. Early astronomers thought that Maria were seas on the moon. Maria is the darkest part of the lunar landscape, and it is filled by lava after a crash of huge meteorites on the lunar surface between 3 and 4 billion years ago. Now the moon moves. The moon orbits the Earth every every 27 and a third days. The moon rises in the east and sets in the west. It rises and sets about 50 minutes later each day. The rotation of the moon turns on its axis every 27 days, but the same side of the moon is always facing the Earth. So we never get to see this side of the moon. This is the far side of the moon. The far side of the moon was first seen by a Russian space probe called Luna 3. It has a lot of craters in it. It has very few Marias, which are like the seas of lava. And it has a much thicker crust. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to show you guys a short little video. Montgomery, do you have a question before we go to the video?
If you dig deeper in underground, you'll find lava.
You'll find what? I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
If you go just deeper and deeper and out into the earth, there's lava inside. You'll find lava.
Exactly, very good. So we are going to take a look at a video right now. Now, this is a very important video. Some of you may have seen it before. If not, it's a great video to watch. It is about the first time man landed on the moon. I will caution you that it is difficult to understand what they're saying the whole time, but it's because it is the actual video from that day. So, in order to find the video, please follow these steps. On your whiteboard screen, make it larger, which means you are going to click the purple toolbar, the little arrow on the end that's right above your whiteboard screen. You are going to click the last icon on that little toolbar. It says Applications when I hold my mouse over it. Now you should see something that says First Steps on Moon. Do not click it yet. Click yes or no so that I know if you see where it says First Steps on Moon, please. You're on your whiteboard screen. All right, perfect. We're all there. Go ahead and click the video. It's going to bring you out, I believe, to ABC's webpage. When you are done with the video, please come back. All right. So, that was a very important piece of American history. Now, I'm not going to talk about the history part of it, but we are going to talk about the science part of it. Victoria, you have a question?
My browser was really slow and I wasn't able to watch the video. It never loaded for me.
Okay, well the link is up on the Moodle page, so maybe after class you can go watch the video. It's not necessarily, basically what the video was a filming of parts of the Apollo launch where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin went to the moon. Would anybody like to explain to Victoria what they saw or what they remember from the video before she gets a chance to watch it? You want to explain maybe some of the images, what they described the moon as? They compared it to something on Earth. Anyone remember? They compared it to a desert on Earth. It was very dark. Okay, there was no light. It was dark except for there. They showed the launch, and they showed the joy of the controllers when the Neil Armstrong radioed back that they were actually on the moon. It was something that the U.S. worked very long and hard for during that time. And then at the end of the video, it ended with a parachute coming down and landing, and that was the astronauts returning back to Earth. Mohammed, do you have a question? I can't hear your video, your microphone, Mohammed, so you're going to have to check that and make sure you have it set up right. What we're going to look at now is we are going to look at the phases of the moon. Now, when you look up at the night sky, you see a different moon pretty much every night. Sometimes you see just a very little sliver of the moon, and sometimes you see what is called a full moon. So let's take a look at this PowerPoint that says it's just a phase. So moonlight, or what we see as moonlight, is actually not light from the moon. The moon does not produce its own light. Stars produce their own light, but moons do not. Moonlight is a reflection of sunlight hitting the moon. Half of the moon's surface is always reflecting light. Now, from Earth, we see different amounts of the moon's lit surface. The amount that we see is called a phase. If you look up here, these are the different phases of the moon. Now, some of them, they all have technical names. Some of the names we are more familiar with than others. Here we go. These are the main 4 shapes of the moon. We have a full moon, a crescent moon, a quarter moon, and a gibbous moon. When we see a full moon, we are seeing the entire part of the moon that is reflecting the sun. Okay, and I'm skipping through some of these. Now, last week we talked about solar eclipses and what a solar eclipse is. And there are also lunar eclipses. A lunar eclipse is when the moon moves into the Earth's shadow. This shadow darkens the moon. There are umbra eclipses and penumbra eclipses. Eclipses occur about 2 to 3 times a year, and they last about 4 hours. Now, while I have never seen a complete solar eclipse, I have seen lunar eclipses. Go ahead and make a little smiley face next to your name if you have seen lunar eclipses before. Even a partial one. Victoria says she has. Mohammed has. They are definitely very cool, and if you go into Google or whatever search engine you want to use, and you typed in lunar eclipse in and put where you live, it will tell you when the next when the next lunar eclipse in your area is going to be. Now, something that the moon's to Earth is it causes tides. Victoria, you have a question?
Oh, I just wanted to say, with the lunar eclipse, the reason why some people don't see it is because it's very late at night. For us, it was at 3 in the morning, so I had to set an alarm just to get up.
That certainly is true. Lunar eclipses do tend to be during hours when people are not awake and functioning. That certainly is true. So the tides are caused by the moon. Tides on the Earth are caused by the pull of the moon's gravity on Earth. High tide is when the side facing the moon and the side away from the moon. So if you were looking at this picture right now, the right and the left side would have a high tide. The low tide is on the sides of the Earth. So the top and the bottom would be having a low tide. Tides change every 12 hours. There's a high tide every 12 hours and 25 and a half minutes. Now, we talked about Neil Armstrong, and he explored the moon. He was the first man on the moon on July 20th, 1969. But there have been lots of other explorations or expeditions to the moon. Before Neil Armstrong was on the moon, during the 50s and 60s, the United States sent lots of probes unmanned to the moon. Then there were 6 Apollo missions between 1969 and 1972 to collect rocks, lunar rocks from the moon. During those 6 missions, we collected 842 pounds or 382 kilograms of rocks. And in total, there have been 12 Americans who have walked on the moon. Now, this picture here, you see someone getting off of a spacecraft and onto the moon. What are some things that you notice about the man? Anyone have any observations about him? Victoria, go ahead.
Well, there's actually a shadow, because normally there aren't shadows, I don't think. But, and also the aircrafter, yeah, I think it's the aircraft. It looks like a copper color, and his suit is very, very puffy.
All right, very good. His suit is very, very puffy. Alexandria, do you have any observations about him? Okay, Alexandria went ahead and put in the text chat that he has a uniform to help protect him, and it helps him breathe because of the lack of oxygen in space. Very good. Now, when humans go to the moon, they need to bring lots of things with them because they cannot, or we cannot, survive on the moon. Okay, here's another picture of an American in a spacesuit. These spacesuits are heated and cooled because remember we said the temperatures are very extreme on the moon. If you look at the shield covering his face, it's reflecting back. Now this is because the solar radiation is much more powerful in space. So the astronaut needs to protect his eyes and any skin. He has very heavy-duty gloves on and boots, and his back of his suit has an air tank so that he can breathe. Now, we are going to look at our whiteboard. I'm going to unlock your whiteboard. Now, I want you to come up with a list of things that humans need to bring to the moon with them. So what are some things that humans need to bring to the moon? Now, when you are typing, remember you can use the pencil or you can use the typing. Montgomery, go ahead.
Helmets and spacesuits. Suits.
All right, helmets and spacesuits, very good. I will write those up here, but you guys can go ahead and write right on the whiteboard as well. Helmets and spacesuits. Okay, anything that humans would need to bring to space with them in order to survive. Uh-oh. Okay, hold on. Don't try to write. It looks like it might have gotten erased for some reason. So, try not to use your eraser, and unfortunately we're going to have to start over. So what would humans need to bring to space to stay on the moon? Okay, go ahead and okay, let's not be fooling around drawing. Let's be looking at what humans need to bring to space. And let me add back up here helmets and spacesuits. Okay, I see some great ideas up here. I'm going to give you guys 2 more minutes. I'm not sure what keeps happening to our whiteboard, but unfortunately we are going to abandon this because it keeps deleting on us. Now I see that you guys, or saw, you guys had some great ideas. I'm going to go ahead and lock all your whiteboards and I'm going to write them up here so we can see them and hopefully not get erased. We had helmets. Helmets and spacesuits. Someone had air. Someone had oxygen. Someone had food. Someone had water. Am I missing anything? If you had something else, either put it in the text chat or raise your hand. Uniform, someone had. Montgomery, go ahead.
Cameras and recording equipment.
All right, cameras and recording equipment. Victoria?
Exercise equipment, exercise equipment for the low gravity, and sleeping bags for sleeping.
Perfect. So we had Mohammed put communication equipment. Victoria added sleeping bags, exercise equipment. Montgomery added cameras and recording equipment. Those are all things that we would need to go up on space. Now, or on the moon, I'm sorry. Now, think about what it might be like to live on the moon. Raise your hand or give me a smiley face. Give me a smiley face if that's something that you think would be fun. I think it would be interesting to live on the moon. I think it would be a different environment. It would be a little scary, but I think it definitely would be interesting. So give me a smiley face if you agree. You can give me a sad face if you would have no desire to go to the moon. So I saw Mohammed and Sophie gave me smiley faces. Montgomery, Alexandria, you all gave me some smiley faces. And Victoria's not quite sure. So it's a great thought for me. However, I'm not sure that there would be reason enough for me to go to the moon. Can anyone think of a reason that people from Earth would have to go and live on the moon? One reason could be that the Earth runs out of natural resources. Victoria, what do you think a reason could be?
To live on the moon? Correct. Okay. Well, that meaning that they run out of resources, and let's say this is one of my thoughts, that the pollution got too much and we weren't able to live on the Earth.
That's a very good thought about the pollution. Another thought when I kind of was researching this is if the Earth becomes overpopulated, or if there's some sort of unforeseen disaster on Earth. It may cause people to move to the moon. Some things that we would have to consider if we were going to move to the moon would be the weather on the moon, the temperatures, the lack of oxygen, the lack of gravity, so you would need the exercise equipment. But scientists are now developing ideas about what a moon colony might look like. Now I have some images that I am going to pull up and put on our whiteboard. While I'm doing that, Alexandria, go ahead and ask your question. Well, people couldn't live on Mars without some assistance. But we're going to look at some different types of assistance. And here we have 5 images. There are 5 images of different ideas of moon colonies. Give me 1 second, Victoria, and then I will go ahead and entertain whatever question you have. So at the top left, you see sort of a white skull of a structure. This is one idea of a moon house. It is lightweight so that it could get to the moon easily. And then it would be anchored to the ground and covered with some sort of plastic to keep oxygen in. Now to the right, in the middle top, you have what I would think of as a traditional, like what Neil Armstrong went to the moon on. It is an all-contained unit where a family would live. To the right of that, you have 2 scientists looking at a moon colony. There's modular houses almost on the bottom left of that picture. And then apartments type units, and then single units over towards the right of that picture. On the bottom left, you see what looks like an igloo type of home on the moon. And then on the right, you see an astronaut out collecting something from the moon's surface. Now, what we are going to do, or what you are going to do this week for homework, is you are going to think about what we learned about the moon. We know there's no oxygen. We know it's kind of a light, fluffy surface. We know that there is very little gravity. And we're going to come up with some sort of dwelling to stay on the moon. Now, you could spend tons of time on this. I would like you to spend 45 minutes to an hour. If you want to spend more, that's fine. But I'd like you to come up with a moon dwelling. Make sure that you tell me why. You're going to have to explain to me how it keeps the oxygen in and how people can survive using it. You can just write a paragraph or write a bulleted list. That's fine. You can do a drawing. That would be fine. Or you could go ahead and make a model out of Legos or Connects or clay, whatever you want. I want you to be creative if you want, but you do not have to be creative. Victoria, did you have a question?
No, I forgot my question.
Oh, sorry about that. Does anybody have a question about the homework assignment for tonight? Or for this week? If you would like, I'm going to call on you all, and if you would like to share them next week, you can. If you do not want to, that's fine. If you make a model, you can just send me a picture of the model. If you draw something, you can either take a picture of it or you can scan it to me. And if you write something, you can just send me that. Your homework is in Moodle already. I made sure I clicked the open button. These pictures are in Moodle if you would like to refer back to them. Okay, does anyone have any questions about this? No? Perfect. All right, well that is, oh, go ahead, Victoria.
I was wondering, or I don't know, if we would be able to do this since we were talking about the moon. Because I know my friends did this, and what they did, they drew circles all over a page, like I think 28 circles, and then every night they looked at the moon and filled in the moon according to what they saw, and in the end there were lots and it just showed the whole entire moon phase.
That's a great idea and great assignment. You know what? I'm going to add that to Moodle, and if you want to do it, you can. I'll put a sheet up there with the 28 circles on it, and I'll label the dates, and then if you would like to do it, you can. You can go ahead and look out your window if you can see the moon. We can't see it every night if it's cloudy, but look out your window and shade in or color yellow the amount of the moon that you can see. I like that idea a lot, Victoria. Good job. I will add that to the Moodle site today. All right, so that is where we are going to stop for today. If you have any questions about your homework or anything we did in class, certainly feel free to give me a call, send me an email. I'm going to add Victoria's idea up there, and I hope that you guys have an awesome day today and enjoy the snow if you're in the Northeast, or if you're not, I hope you're enjoying some nice weather.